The next we have best soundtrack. This is best overall soundtrack. This is best use of music. This is just how the game handles the songs that it decides to use.
Yes.
So we have Animal Crossing: New Horizons, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Necrobarista, Paradise Killer, The Solitaire Conspiracy, Hades, Haven, and Risk of Rain 2.
Yep.
Animal Crossing: New Horizons is just a really good Animal Crossing soundtrack.
Yep.
It's the same sort of idea that it's always done, where every hour it changes to a new sort of theme that then swaps and does a mirror on the like AM version and the PM version. So it's like a 5 a.m. and a 5 p.m. that are mirrors of each other.
Yes.
It's a really good one of them. It has some really when we get to the best original track, there are some standouts that
for sure
really help. But at the end of the day, it's just a really good Animal Crossing soundtrack. But that is kind of all it is.
Yep.
Final Fantasy VII Remake is kind of really unfair.
Because it's got one of the best soundtracks in video games. Just rerun.
What happens when you take one of the best soundtracks ever written, orchestrate it, and then also do a bunch of remixes for different situations? But it's not even just that, because that's good enough as it is. If you took the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack and then did it in 2020, like, that's incredible as enough as it is. But they use it in really good ways, where they know how to remix the tunes that you're expecting in strange and interesting ways. I'm thinking of like boss battle music and like different,
for sure.
Like town themes and stuff like that, and character themes as well. The game itself uses the musical idea of like leitmotif, like little bits of music that you can recognize as like, this is associated with this character or this place. And uses them in other tracks in really interesting ways. Like Tifa's theme, for example, gets used multiple different times in different areas of the game as like a psychological nod and wink to tie you back into the story and stuff like that. It's a really good soundtrack. It's staggeringly good. It's what happens if you took one of the best soundtracks ever written and then did it in a 2020 video game, which was, it sounds amazing and it is used really well. Like, there's not a lot more you can say about it.
Yeah, and the idea that it uses it to defy expectations as well. Where you're like, oh yeah, this totally is that song I know, but like done in a totally different style. And the idea that a lot of people,
the fact that they don't use the main boss battle theme, like Those Who Fight Further, they don't use that until like the 4th or 5th boss of the game. Like, they don't use it till the Airburster, which is a really cool moment of like, it is like the big for like grand scale boss fight that you have in that game. So of course they go, here's the music you're expecting for a boss fight, and it makes you go, right, I know this now. It's it's really cool. It's really, really well handled.
Necrobarista is just a really good soundtrack that I liked. There's nothing, it fits really well with the stuff they're doing there, and really does I think the reason why it's here is because it does the two tones of that game really good, really real justice, where the slapstick's probably the wrong word, but like the comedic side of that game has a matching soundtrack, as does the super serious part of that game, and like the real internal trauma of that game. Like, there's some really good music in there. It's probably not top 3, but it's good. But what probably is top 3 is the Paradise Killer soundtrack, because that soundtrack is so good.
Fucking great soundtrack.
And again, like matches the tone and aesthetic of that game.
It matches tone and style. It mirrors so perfectly. Because all they're doing is just like, what would happen if we took a synthwave album cover and made it into a whole world? And fits that to a T. Like, could not be more perfect for that thing.
And there are like character tracks, there are different sections that play in different ways. It's just...
that game has a really good thing about proximity in its soundtracks, because it's like music being played on towers in the island.
All the music is diegetic, is that the right word? I can't remember.
I think so.
All the soundtracks are all played, like you say, they're played in game from pillars with from speakers in the world, so like as it moves around. And there's a really good moment actually where there's a speaker on the beach And as you go towards the water's edge, the music kind of fades out to the background, and you just hear the beach, and it's this kind of moment of quiet in this world. I don't know, it's just a spectacular soundtrack. It really is.
Oh yeah, the Barry Topping, despite being a complete nightmare on the podcast that he's on, really knows how to write a goddamn soundtrack, because that thing is unbelievably good.
Social Conspiracy is just good. It's not top 3, but it's a surprise for a soundtrack for a solitaire game. It does some interesting stuff, and it's just pretty decent. Hades is entirely done by
fucking Darren Korb, knocking it out of the park yet again. Like a soundtrack of numerous songs, and they're all incredible, well done,
and a complexity that I haven't seen him do before. Where there's a great moment that I think solidified it in this category for me. Was I sent Out of Tartarus to a mate of mine who is like very much in musical theory, and I was like, "Can you tell me what time signature this is?" And the conversation went on for like an hour and a half. And it's like, well, you can read it in a bunch of different ways, and actually super interesting because this particular bit is in 10/7, but then what?
It's not only in like a compound time signature, but it's in a compound time signature that like changes over the course of the song.
Yep.
It's like, musically it's super impressive, but even if you don't care about music theory, there are the variety of different sort of songs that you get out of it as well, whereas it flicks between like stuff like Out of Tartarus, which is like pretty heavy, and the one that I've put on Best Original Track and stuff like that are really heavy, designed obviously to like drive you forward. That they then get into like really calming moments, like the song that plays for Charon when you're in his shop. That then also gets remixed in really interesting ways, and
all the Ashley Barrett stuff is still really good. Like those are always the highlights of the soundtrack for me.
The song that Eurydice just sings on her own is that I've not met a person that hasn't got there and just sat and listened to that. Like, it is
100%
a beautiful, beautiful song. It's an incredible soundtrack. Like, it's just unbelievably good. Darren Korb continues to do no wrong on
and
the
also
soundtrack.
Like it's like that studio is just incredible, where like the moment I realized that Darren Korb also plays Zagreus, and I'm just like, fuck me, like these people are incredible. Like these people are absolutely incredible. Haven is the entire soundtrack's done by Danger, who was on the Fury soundtrack and is like a kind of EDM synthwave producer. Soundtrack's super good. It actually does do. It's weird, like it's a very long soundtrack, but a lot of the songs are used only in very specific moments where, like, it's almost an implementation thing. As I think possibly the only bit that lets it down is that while you're actually out on the islets, there are only like 4 or 5 different soundtracks that plays through the main bit. But then once you hit some of the different biomes, there's different bits. There's event soundtracks. There's bits that play into story moments. It's just a really solid soundtrack. Like it's pretty good. And then Risk of Rain 2.
Yeah, that's on the list because that soundtrack really surprised me. Where it for a game that is like a really intense hardcore roguelike, that soundtrack is surprisingly chill and ambient, but it also does it like it has a certain, like, every set of stages has like 2 or 3 songs that it can play at any given moment, and it swaps between them in really nice ways. It's mainly just in there because it was a soundtrack that made me like take a step back and be like, this is a really interesting choice. Like and it's great. Like, all the soundtrack is fantastic, but it was just a really cool decision that they made to be like, this could be like overdriven guitars and drum lines and all that stuff, but it's not. It's really chilled out. It's not what you
expect.
It's really chilled out synth stuff with other instruments layered on top of it, and it works really, really well.
So what's here? I am going to say that Paradise Killer is on this list, and I don't care about the rest of them. I mean, it's probably Hades as well.
Hades and Final Fantasy VII, I think.
Really? No, Animal Crossing? I thought this was going to be a lock for this category. Okay.
Nah. Final Fantasy VII, like Animal Crossing, yeah, is a good Animal Crossing soundtrack, but Final Fantasy VII, it recontextualizes a soundtrack that I have listened to since I was a kid in numerous different, really interesting ways, and also just gives you those tracks orchestrated in fantastic manners. Sure. Like, that thing is unbelievably good. It's okay. Final Fantasy VII deserves to be on that best soundtrack thing.
Okay. Oh God, are we going to fight about this?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, cool. Because Paradise Killer wins this category, right?
I don't think it does.
Oh, God damn it. Okay.
Because Paradise Killer is a really good synthwave album. But I'll give you that.
But
it's an excellent synthwave album.
I've never... Okay, seriously. The soundtrack in that game, I have never played a game where the soundtrack is as much a part of the visuals of that game as the graphics are. Which sounds weird, but like... It doesn't work without... God, it's very difficult to separate parts of that game out for me. It is like that thing is that entire game is like a concept album done digitally.
Yeah, true.
And it just doesn't. It's so spectacular at filling that world. Like, it almost tells a story in a weird way. Like, there are because it's diegetic and because it's played in the world, it takes on this other importance almost, where like it makes you wonder why those are the songs that the council have decided that should be played on this island, right? And you're just like, you end up in this really bizarre rabbit hole of like, why this? Why here? Why? I don't know. It's hard to separate the soundtrack from my love for this game, but I fully appreciate how good Hades is.
Yeah. So I think,
and also like, you want to talk about implementation, like the fact that there are 4 worlds in that game, and Out of Tartarus is one of them, and it hasn't got old yet. 20x hours into that game.
The songs are never... They do not get stale, like, at all. Even 100 hours in, like, the soundtrack is still massively impressive. They also... I wanted to talk about this here. The way that they use it as well is really interesting, that I'll talk about more in Best Moment, because there are ways that it does it. Yeah. It is just like, I'll also that I couldn't make like an argument that Hades doesn't already present for itself in terms of its soundtrack. Like, I'm perfectly okay with Paradise Killer like winning or whatever, because it is really good on its own.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see what you would say as like an argument.
Totally.
Like, it's I have no problem with it winning. I think that Hades has a lot going for it that is a lot more variant than Paradise Killer, because Paradise Killer is like it is an incredible synthwave soundtrack that has like the various aspects of synthwave that are all in it. Like, it has the cool chill out tracks, and it has the upbeat stuff and all that stuff, but Hades has like different styles of song written for different situations that it then twists and plays on itself. That it has like, this isn't most music, but like it has like 30 something tracks in its soundtrack that like none of them are bad. And
totally.
It is like it's just a super impressive bit of using music in a video game. I
think once you bring in use, I think Hades might have to pep it, because I'm going back and remembering like the first time you get a mid area boss in that thing, when like, God, I think I just love Out of Tartarus so much. I just think that
it's a really good track,
and especially because like that bass line that you enter a room and it just transforms into the boss version, and you're like, oh fuck, oh no, okay, right.
So Let me tell you, if that's what you like, wait until we get to best moment.
Yeah,
because there is a different version of that is way better than the Out of Tartarus one.
Cool. Okay, I can give it to Hades, I think. So
yeah,
Hades.
I love the Paradise Killer soundtrack. Don't get me wrong, it's incredibly good. But
it is real good.
Yeah, I think with how good Hades is, and how well it uses
once you throw because this
it.
category is implementation and use, I think Hades has to pip it in that just because it does interesting things with it. So best soundtrack, Hades with Paradise Killer and Final Fantasy VII Remake as runners up. God, it's such good music. God damn it.
Yeah, real good music in there.
Yeah.